So I'd completely run out of ideas of what to build next in my Minecraft world until one of my Discord members recommended that I build a castle. Because every good survival world has a castle in it, right? So today we're going to be building some archer tower thingies and then just building up the castle some more. And of course, while we do that, I've got a scary Reddit story to read you. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. Today's story is from r/nosleep from user moretanks. I went shopping at Walmart at 10:06 p.m. The store wouldn't let me leave. That sounds absolutely terrifying. That's the last place I'd want to be stuck, is a Walmart. Like, maybe like a Target would be cool, or Costco. It was 10:06 p.m. when I walked into the store. The massive Walmart was already echoing with emptiness, just like the parking lot outside. That was perfect for me. I hated coming earlier. During the day, it was packed wall to wall with people, so this became my shopping time. The store didn't close for another 2 hours, which was more than enough for me. I pushed my cart slowly through the empty aisles, avoiding the few other late-night shoppers who were wandering around like I was. I hadn't picked up much yet. I was crouched in front of the Pop-Tarts, trying to decide between strawberry and blueberry, when someone rammed into the cart beside me. The heavy metal cart slammed into my shoulder. I jumped up, already irritated, wondering what kind of asshole manages to run into someone in an almost empty store. "Can't you see I'm standing here?" I snapped. There was a woman standing next to my cart. She was wearing a torn bathrobe, barefoot. Her tangled grayish-black hair hung down over her shoulders. Her eyes were cloudy, pale gray, unfocused. "Help me," the strange woman said, staring straight at me. I was so stunned I couldn't say a word. What was this ragged, homeless-looking blind woman doing here? How had I not noticed her walking up to me? And more importantly, how did she find me? I stammered. "Are you okay, ma'am?" "Help," she said again. "Help me. I need to get out of here." She stepped closer, her hands reaching out, searching for me, or for anything she could grab onto to orient herself. "Ma'am, are you all right?" I asked, backing up a step. "I need to get out," she said, her voice rising as her hands started flailing more desperately. I didn't know what to do. I scanned the aisles for anyone, another shopper, an employee, anyone at all. There was no one, not a single person beside us. Okay, calm down," I said, trying to steady myself too. "Let's find someone who can help." I reached out carefully, telling her to stop swinging her arms. But the moment my fingertips brushed her arm, she moved, fast. Way too fast for someone who was supposed to be blind. She grabbed my wrist. I froze. I couldn't even make a sound. I just stared in shock as she tightened her grip on my forearm and dug her long, filthy nails deep into my flesh. "Ah, what the hell is wrong with you?" I yelled. Let go, let go." I shoved her hard with my free hand. She barely reacted. She staggered back a step, but she didn't fall. I ripped my arm free and stumbled away, staring in horror at the blood already seeping from the scratches. "You're going to leave me here too," she screamed like a lunatic. "You're going to leave me here too, Jonathan." I clenched my arm, blood slowly dripping between my fingers, and she smiled. Like she already knew the panic was crawling deeper and deeper into my bones. "What did you say?" I backed away from the crazy woman. "How do you know my name?" "Ha," she laughed. "You won't leave me here, right? We can go out together, right?" "What the hell are you talking about?" I said, my voice shaking. "Jonathan," she grinned, her teeth dark and rotting. "Don't leave me here. Help me." I kept stepping backward, but there was no sign of blindness in her anymore. Her eyes were still cloudy gray, still cataract fogged, yet I could see it. She knew exactly where I was. She knew what to follow. I was still clutching the bleeding scratches on my arm. A single drop of blood hit the worn gray tile floor. "Jonathan, why are you trying to leave me?" she asked, still smiling as she inched closer. I backed up farther and farther until I hit the next shelf. My back pressed into rows of blue and white packaged products. "What do you want from me?" I shouted. "Leave me alone. Somebody help." I whipped my head left and right, down the endless aisles. The store was dead. It was like there was no one left in the building but the two of us. She walked toward me slowly. I had nowhere else to go. So I bolted, like a startled deer. I shot forward and ran. I clutched my arm and sprinted as fast as my legs would carry me, straight ahead, toward where the exit should have been. My sneakers pounded against the polished floor of the empty Walmart. I ran, gasping for air. Something wasn't right. I should have been outside by now, starting my car. But the shelves didn't end. The aisles didn't thin out. They stretched on, endless. The glowing exit sign shimmered in the distance, but it looked farther away than before, like the store itself was stretching. What the hell? I panted. What is this? Cereal boxes, canned goods, soda bottles, all lined up perfectly on the shelves, running on forever. I glanced back and she was gone. Just long, endless rows of merchandise stacked to the ceiling. Hello? I shouted into the empty store. Someone help me. My voice echoed through the massive space. When it faded, it was replaced by the low hum of fluorescent lights, the ticking of cooling pipes, and something else. A cold, sharp slapping sound, like bare feet running on tile. I spun in a circle, trying to pinpoint where it was coming from. Where was she? There was nothing. Jesus Christ, I muttered under my breath. My mouth was dry. I was still gasping. My heart felt like it was about to burst out of my chest. No, this isn't possible. Maybe I ran the wrong way. I can't get lost in a store I've been shopping at for years. Where is everyone? Where are the workers? The barefoot slapping echoed again. Louder now. Closer. I swallowed hard, the sound of it filling my skull. I need to get the hell out of here. I turned and ran the other direction, maybe back the way I came. I ran like a spooked workhorse. But the shelves didn't thin out. The store didn't end. The fully stocked aisles stood in perfect, uniform rows, one after another. The products changed from section to section, but it felt like I kept passing the same shelves over and over again. I finally stopped between the canned vegetables and the bread, bent over and gasping for air. The hypermarket's bright packaging formed a blinding rainbow of color, motionless, watching. When I managed to straighten up and catch my breath, I noticed a well-dressed man in a tailored suit calmly examining jars of pickles. My mind practically cried out in relief. There was someone else here, someone besides me and that crazy woman. "Sir," I shouted, already rushing toward him. The middle-aged man with glasses flinched at my sudden yell and looked around for who had called out to him. An empty shopping basket hung from his right hand. He stared at me in confusion. "Sir, please, you have to help me," I said as soon as I reached him. "Some insane woman attacked me. She's lurking somewhere in the store. This whole thing is insane." The older man looked at me suspiciously, like I was a lunatic. And yeah, I sounded like one. "I need to get out of here," I continued, rambling, ignoring his loaded stare. "I can't even find the exit. It's like the store doesn't end." "Excuse me, let me interrupt you," the man said in a measured tone. "I actually need a bit of assistance. In this jar of pickles, how many whole cucumbers are inside?" I just froze. What the hell is this? I was terrified that woman would find me again. I couldn't get out of the store, and this asshole wants to discuss pickles? This guy's got the right idea. "Are you deaf? Didn't you just hear what I said?" I snapped at him. "Can't you see my arm? I'm bleeding." "Now excuse me." The elegant gentleman leaned closer, but instead of looking at my injuries, he stared at my chest. "Frank, forgive me, but how can you speak to a customer like that while you're on the clock?" I just stood there, staring at him blankly. Frank? What the hell was he talking about? "Why are you so shocked?" the older man asked smugly, pointing at my chest. "You work here, don't you?" I looked down, and he was right. A blue Walmart vest hung on my shoulders. A cheap plastic name tag clipped to it read, Frank. "What the hell?" I whispered, staring at myself in horror. When did this get on me? Why would I be Frank? This isn't possible. What is happening here? "What is this?" I asked, looking back at him. But the man was already at the end of the aisle, I hadn't even noticed him leave. I hadn't heard him move. He walked like any ordinary shopper, browsing the shelves, searching for something mundane. Then he turned left at the end of the aisle. "Sir, wait," I shouted, hurrying after him. "Please wait, help me." I reached the end of the aisle, ripping the stupid blue vest off as I ran. But when I stepped out into the wide main walkway, the man was gone, like the floor had swallowed him whole. I threw the vest to the ground in frustration. And that's when I saw her, standing farther down the corridor, the woman. She was grinning at me with those gray, lifeless eyes. She wasn't rushing. She was just waiting, like she knew I had nowhere left to go. After a few seconds of staring at me, she suddenly darted between the shelves and vanished into the aisles. This thing is still following me. I figured it was smarter to run. I didn't know where the woman was or what she wanted, but I didn't want to run into her again. So whatever direction she might have gone, if it even led anywhere, I headed the opposite way. The aisles didn't change. The floor thudded beneath my steps the same way. The fluorescent lights kept flickering and humming overhead. I had just stopped to glance back and see if she was following when the intercom chime rang out loudly. "Frank," a calm female voice said over the speakers. "Please come to register 3. I repeat, Frank, come to register 3. Who the hell is Frank? Why was I wearing his vest? What is this place? The intercom gave a melodic beep and fell silent. I had no idea what to do. I didn't even know how long I'd been wandering these aisles. Since I was standing next to a fully stocked wall of soda, I stepped into the aisle and grabbed a can of Dr. Pepper. I took a long drink, walking toward the other end of the aisle. When I reached the end, the exact same sign greeted me. I turned to head off in some direction, any direction. Then I froze. She was standing there again, this time barely an aisle away. She wasn't smiling. It felt like I'd been caught by an employee for stealing merchandise. I snapped back to my senses, tossed the soda aside, and bolted into the aisles. I ran past the soda racks, cutting across toward the opposite row, but something wasn't right. The moment I cleared the end of the aisle, she was there again. Same angry expression. I stopped dead and glanced back the way I'd come. The mad woman charged me. I had just enough presence of mind to spin and run back. I knocked over a crate of Mountain Dew, sending bottles clattering across the floor. It didn't slow her down. She sprinted after me, her bare feet slapping loudly against the cold tile. I made it into one of the cleaning supplies aisles when she caught up. I felt her claws rake into my back, shoving me forward. I crashed into a stack of Clorox bottles, sending them crashing off the shelves and hit the floor beside them. I barely managed to roll over before she was on top of me. She straddled me and started hitting, clawing, striking like a rabid animal. I threw my arms up to block the blows, but she was relentless. Her cold hands rained down on my arms and head so fast I started to feel dizzy. Then, in a split second of distraction, she dragged her nails across the right side of my face. I felt her filthy claws carve into my forehead and rake down across my cheek. I screamed. Like a maddened bull, I bucked and threw her off. She crashed backward, and for a second, I was free. I scrambled to my feet and tried to run, to escape anywhere, but she grabbed my leg. Her nails felt sharper than before as she drove them into my calf. I howled. In a surge of rage, I stepped back and kicked her square in the face. She let go instantly. I was free. Limping, I hurried toward the end of the cleaning aisle. I risked one glance back to see if she was following. The gaunt, filthy woman was sitting on the floor. Her matted hair hung over her face. But I could see her watching me as I stumbled away, and she was grinning. Those gray eyes locked onto me, like she had finally gotten her revenge. I kept limping through the aisles. I didn't know where I was going anymore, but I was terrified of that woman. I could feel the hatred inside her, the need to kill me, and at the same time, the twisted contradiction. She wanted me here, and didn't want me here. What is this place? What does it want from me? I had to find an exit. Wherever it was in this maze, I had to get out before she found me again. But the last attack had been strange. I ran from her, and she still got closer. It was like I wasn't running away at all, like I was running straight toward her. Maybe I shouldn't even be thinking about that. Maybe I should just focus on getting out, on surviving. I had to get out. I staggered out from between the shelves, leaving droplets of blood behind me like a trail. I was back on the massive main aisle again. Nothing had changed. Shelves stretched as far as I could see. My bag, the thought hit me like lightning. I had a bag. I left it in my shopping cart when I came in. My phone, my wallet, my car keys, everything was in there. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't give up. My body was still shaking, pain pulsing through me, and I didn't even know what kept pushing me forward anymore. And for the first time in this nightmare maze, I felt like luck had finally smiled at me. I was standing in the over-the-counter medicine section. The shelves were lined with exactly what I needed to treat my injuries. I limped into the aisle, dragging my bleeding leg behind me. I grabbed everything I could. I won't pretend I did it properly, but I treated myself as best I could. When I finished, I couldn't go any further. I slid down to the floor, leaning my back against the shelf, and just stared into nothing. Gauze wrappers and empty boxes were scattered around me. The supermarket hummed quietly. The lights flickered occasionally. The air conditioning rattled overhead. I fought to keep my eyes open. Why did you eat so much? A thin little voice snapped, jolting me upright. Dad's gonna yell at us. Leave me alone, a little boy muttered with his mouth full. I didn't see anyone at first. I had no idea where the voices were coming from or who they belonged to. Mom got really, really mad, a little girl's voice said. We're definitely gonna get in trouble. I forced myself to stand, hissing in pain. I had to find them. Maybe they were near the exit. I didn't have to go far. I didn't even understand this store layout anymore. When I stepped into the aisle, the two kids fell silent and stared at me. One of them was a red-haired, freckled, chubby boy sitting on the floor. Candy wrappers were scattered all around him, a ridiculous amount. A few feet away stood a girl, maybe 6 years old, wearing a purple floral summer dress. She clutched a long-eared bunny plush in her small hands and stared at the floor guiltily. My stomach, the red-haired boy whimpered. Chocolate smeared around his mouth when he noticed me. Hi, I said, confused. How did you get here? What are you doing? I'm sorry, the blonde girl said, squeezing her bunny tighter. I told him not to eat that much. Snitch, the boy snapped and tried to toss an empty Reese's wrapper at her. Hey, calm down, I said, limping closer and crouching beside them. Enough. Tell me what happened. How did you get here? We came here with you, Dad, looking at me like I was the one being strange. For a second, it felt like ice water poured down my back. Dad, I don't have kids. I don't even have a wife. How could I have kids? You're not my children, I blurted out, almost offended. That's not possible. The two kids looked at each other, confused. I could see on their faces that they didn't understand what I was saying. They really thought I was their father, that I wasn't Jonathan. I don't understand, I muttered, rubbing my face. Something pressed against the cut on my hand. I looked down. There was a ring on my finger, a wedding ring. Am I married? No, that's impossible. I'm Jonathan, 27, single, and I do not work at a supermarket. My stomach tightened, and I was one breath away from hyperventilating. Who are these kids? Why are they calling me Dad? And why am I wearing a ring? I stood up and stepped away from them, pulling the ring off my finger. Beneath it, there was a pale mark in my skin, the kind you only get after wearing a ring for years. But this still wasn't me. I know my name. They don't get to take that from me. They don't get to take my life. Dad? The little girl asked softly. Are we going home now? This place is boring. Yeah, sure, I answered automatically, and I don't even know why. Just tell me one more thing, okay? Have you seen a lady around here? An ugly lady? The girl shook her head, her thin blonde hair swaying. The red-haired boy was still sprawled on the floor, but he shook his head too. Nope, didn't see anyone. Okay, I said, forcing calm into my voice. Then, to my surprise, the girl gently took my hand, her small warm fingers wrapped around mine. It felt peaceful, like a quiet weekend morning. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just breathed. "Can you help me too?" the boy asked from the floor. He reached out his chubby little hand so I could pull him up from the pile of candy wrappers. I grabbed his sticky, sugary, chocolate-smeared hand and helped him to his feet. "Do you know where the exit is?" I asked once he was standing. "Maybe the door?" the girl shrugged innocently. "My stomach," the boy groaned, bending slightly. The girl rolled her eyes at him, her cheerful little face flushed pink. "All right, let's go find that door," I said, trying to sound steady. We walked between the tall shelves together. The aisles repeated themselves endlessly as we moved forward. I didn't let go of their hands. I'm not even sure why. Maybe because, even in this hell, I needed something human to hold on to. "Ooh, toys!" the girl suddenly squealed, ripping her hand free from mine and sprinting off. "No!" I shouted, reaching after her. Too late. The moment she spotted rows of Lego sets, Barbies, and bright, colorful boxes stacked high, her little legs carried her straight toward them. I tried to run after her, but my injured leg dragged painfully behind me. And as if that wasn't enough, the chubby boy was still clinging to my other hand. "My stomach really hurts," he whined as I tried to move faster. "It hurts so bad." "Come on," I snapped. "Move." As if he did it on purpose, he suddenly went limp and collapsed on the floor. He curled into himself, groaning, clutching his stomach. I stood there, my head whipping back and forth. The girl was already barely visible between the aisles, browsing plush toys. The boy was writhing in pain on the floor. I couldn't let them disappear. I hissed through the pain and lifted the boy up. He couldn't have been more than 8 years old, but he had to weigh at least 90 pounds. I wrapped my arms around him, hoisted him against my chest, his head resting on my shoulder, and limped toward the toy section. "Hey," I shouted. "Come back, where are you?" I moved between rows of Barbies and action figures carrying the boy, but the girl was gone. "Hello?" I yelled again. "Where are you?" The answer didn't come from her. It came as a loud belch, followed immediately by the wet, choking sound of vomiting. The boy threw up. All over my neck. The thick, brown, syrupy mess soaked through my shirt and slid under the fabric. "Jesus," I muttered, disgusted, lowering him to the floor and propping him against a shelf. He sat there, half asleep, his mouth smeared with vomit, clutching his round little belly. I was shaking again. Panic and confusion clawed their way back into me. These kids can't get lost here. I have to get them out. I don't know why. "Ariel!" The girl's voice squealed happily from somewhere nearby. I snapped my head up. She had to be close. The voice sounded just a few aisles over. "Stay here, buddy." I crouched down beside the boy. "I'll come back for you, okay?" He mumbled something unintelligible, chocolate and vomit still smeared across his lips. "Here, wipe your mouth with this," I said, grabbing a large lion plush from the shelf and handing it to him. "I promise I'll come back." Then I turned and limped toward the confirmed direction of the voice. I shouted until my throat burned raw. I wandered in circles until fresh blood seeped through my bandages again, but I found no one. I didn't hear the girl again, and when I went back to where I thought I'd left the boy, he was gone too. The same plush toys were on the shelf, the same yellow lion, but the boy wasn't there. The shelves never changed. No matter which direction I turned, the aisles looked like copies of each other. My legs throbbed. I didn't even have the strength to shout anymore. I turned into a Lego aisle, barely aware of myself, drifting between the shelves. That's when I saw something lying on the floor. My pulse spiked. I rushed toward it, a plush toy, a long-eared rabbit. I recognized it immediately, but there was still no sign of either of them. I lost them. It felt like I was watching myself from the outside. I shuffled between the aisles like a shadow. I'd left the toy section long ago, left the little girl's bunny there too. And once again, I was walking down the endless main aisle, forward and forward. I had no idea where I was going. The rabbit was still in my hand. Maybe I could give it back. The supermarket was silent. The whole place hummed and clicked softly. There was no one here but me, not a single soul. Sometimes I'd jerk my head up in fear or cautiously peer down an aisle when I heard something unfamiliar. But the woman was nowhere. Neither were the kids. I was like a wanderer, the wanderer of the supermarket. The aisles were the same and somehow different. There was no pattern to what came after that. They just kept coming. Sometimes I stopped to eat something or drink when I had to. When I passed the pharmacy section again, I rewrapped my wounds. I even changed my clothes so I wouldn't carry the stench of vomit with me everywhere. I was starting to believe I would spend the rest of my life in there. Then, when the aisles turned back into canned goods and groceries, I saw someone standing between the shelves. A blonde woman. She was sorting through canned tomatoes. Her long hair fell softly over her shoulders, emerald green eyes studying the label in her hand. She was young and beautiful. As if she felt me staring from the end of the aisle. She looked up. Her eyes were slightly stern at first. Then, as if she'd just spotted her favorite person in the world, she smiled and waved. I didn't understand what she wanted. I just stood there like a ship dropped anchor, watching the cheerful blonde beauty waving at me. Just a heads up, guys, the text here on this Reddit post, if you want to go look at it, link in the description, it's in another language, and I don't even know. I started walking toward her. I still didn't understand what she was saying, but something pulled me toward her. She pushed the can toward me. I stared blankly at her full lips and small, delicate nose. I don't understand what you want, I said in a dull voice, barely recognizing my own. I don't know, I muttered, looking down at the container. I don't know what you want. Something was off. It wasn't a can, it was a glass jar. She handed me whole tomatoes floating in yellowish brine. The label was blue-purple, decorated with tomatoes. Did you even look at it? The blonde woman asked, annoyed. Hello? I watched her reddish lips form the words. The sounds were foreign, completely alien to me. And yet, I understood them. Not like gibberish anymore. How? I stared at her. How can I understand you? The fluorescent lights began to flicker, almost all of them at once, like a split-second power outage. For a millisecond, I saw a different store. Smaller, grayer. The products less colorful, fewer in variety, but somehow warmer. Then it was gone, like it had never been there. Artem, sweetheart, what's wrong with you? She asked, looking at me with growing concern, like I was the strange one. I didn't know how to respond. Should I panic? Should I break down? Instead, only one sentence came to mind. How do I get out of here? Get out from where? The woman asked, her tone almost motherly in its sternness. Artem, I swear to God, if you've started drinking again, I'll beat you so bad you won't forget it. The pretty woman wagged her finger at me like I was some misbehaving little boy. I didn't have the strength to argue with her. Come on, she said, looping her arm through mine. I still want to look around. And she started pulling me with her. For someone so short and slender, she was surprisingly strong. Strong enough to almost drag me along. She stood close, her arm brushing against my side as she held on to me. Her perfume smelled like peach blossoms, strong but not sickly. We walked slowly but steadily. I didn't say a word. I just let myself drift with the moment. She didn't speak either, only smiled at me now and then with her big green eyes. Then, suddenly, the store intercom crackled. The familiar chime played. Jonathan, a voice said over the speakers. My voice? Don't go deeper. You won't find the exit that way. I stopped dead in my tracks, pulling the woman back with me. She would have kept walking as if nothing had happened. When I refused to move, the blonde woman looked at me questioningly. What is it, Artem? She asked, staring deep into my eyes. Without thinking, I grabbed both of her arms. I looked straight into her eyes, those green jewels shining up at me. I studied her smooth, feminine features. She glanced away, suddenly flustered, a faint blush rising to her cheeks. I'm sorry, but I can't go with you, I said, as if I'd just had a revelation. This isn't the way I'm supposed to go. I saw the romantic softness drain from her almost instantly. She looked at me in confusion, like she hadn't heard a single word from the intercom. Artem, what are you talking about? She asked quietly. I didn't answer. This wasn't Jonathan speaking. It was like I'd become someone else for that moment, someone with different feelings. I leaned in and kissed her, long and slow. The moment felt frozen in time, like it belonged to a turning point in someone's life. Not Jonathan's life, but someone else's. And in that stretched out kiss, I felt her soft, slender arms fade from between my fingers, her gentle lips dissolve, the peach-scented perfume growing weaker, the warmth of her body disappearing from beside me. And suddenly, I no longer recognized that beautiful, blonde, green-eyed woman at all. I was standing alone between the supermarket aisles. The shelves continued into infinity. I rubbed my fingers against my palm as if searching for the memory of her soft touch. After a few lingering seconds, I started walking between the aisles again, but this time I had a purpose. I kept wandering through the endlessly repeating aisles. In my hand, I gripped the pipe wrench I'd taken from the hardware section. I had to find the crazy woman. I saw it as my only chance to get out. I drifted between the rows, moving left, then right, scanning every corner. The end of every aisle, but the woman refused to show herself, as if she were deliberately hiding. Where was she? Did she know what I was planning? I grew more and more irritated, angry and frustrated. Then, in a weaker moment, when I turned into yet another empty aisle filled with chips, something inside me snapped. I grabbed the wrench and started smashing everything within reach. Bags of chips burst apart, their colorful packaging ripping open as seasoned potato chips spilled everywhere. I stomped over them, swinging the wrench wildly in my hand. Panting, I dropped to my knees and stared at the destruction around me. The only victims were the chips. Silence fell. Only the hum of the ventilation system and the clicking of the fluorescent lights echoed through the store. I lifted my exhausted head, and she was standing at the end of the aisle. She just stood there, grinning, watching me unravel. How long had she been standing there? "Get over here," I screamed at her. "Screw you, I'm gonna smash your skull in." I jumped to my feet and charged at her with the wrench in my hand, but she didn't attack. She ran. And I chased her like an animal. No matter how fast I went, by the time I reached the long main corridor, she was gone. "Where are you?" I roared into the endless space. She laughed. I heard the insane, bony, blind woman laughing at me. She peeked out from behind one of the aisles. Only her head was visible. I didn't care. I threw myself after her. Nothing else mattered anymore. From that moment on, I was caught in the spiral. I don't know how long we played that game, and I don't know why I stopped thinking. Wherever the woman appeared, she would just stand at the end of an aisle, staring at me, almost mockingly, as if she were teasing me. And I, like a lunatic, charged after her with the pipe wrench in my hand. I wanted to catch her. I wanted to smash her face in, for everything, for keeping me here. I was sure she was the one trapping me. I could feel it. This was all because of her. As I ran into the baking supplies aisle, probably from exhaustion or because I was completely losing it, I tripped over my own feet. I crashed hard onto the gray stone tiles, cursing. I rolled onto my back so I wouldn't press my face into the filthy floor. And I stayed there, staring up at the harsh yellow glow of the fluorescent lights above me. Soft footsteps approached, and in an instant, the mad woman was standing over me. Long, filthy toenails curled from her feet, which looked caked in dirt. Her thin robe hung down to her ankles. "Jonathan?" she mocked. "We're not playing anymore? I was having so much fun." "Shut the hell up," I snapped, lying on the floor. I didn't jump up right away. As hard as it was to restrain myself, I had to look calm. This was my best chance. I couldn't waste it. "Jonathan, don't be silly," she cooed sweetly, mocking me. "Come on, catch me." I felt the pipe wrench beside my hand. It would only take one movement. I grabbed it, and sitting up, swung with everything I had. She jumped, but either she didn't expect it or she didn't plan for it. I smashed her knee so hard, she screamed and collapsed. I sprang to my feet and brought the wrench down again on her leg. Blood burst from the broken limb, splattering across the gray floor in tiny red droplets, trophies of my victory. "Let me go," I shouted, striking her thigh again. She tried to shield herself with her hands, but when I swung the heavy wrench, her thin wrist cracked loudly. She shrieked and crumpled, writhing across the floor like a worm. I stood over her, eyes wild, clutching the wrench like a madman. How strange. It felt like we had switched places. "Oh my God, what are you doing, Frank?" a voice said behind me. It was familiar. I'd heard that man before. Where? When? And who the hell was Frank? The elegant gentleman's voice flashed into my mind. The one I'd met earlier. How was he here again? I spun around quickly, maybe to explain myself, or maybe to smash his skull too if he stood in my way, but there was no one behind me. Only a long aisle stacked with sweets. Candy, chocolate, sugar. Wait. This wasn't even the aisle where I had fallen. This wasn't where I was. I turned back to the woman, but she was gone. Instead, 2 children were standing there, trembling. A chubby red-haired boy shielding a small blonde girl with his body. Tears and snot streaked their faces. Their eyes were red from crying as they stared at me in terror. "Dad," the little girl whispered. "Why are you doing this?" I staggered backward. With my torn, bloody hand, I rubbed my face, trying to wake up, to snap out of it. "Dad," she asked again. "Enough," I screamed. "Enough. I'm not your father. I just want to get out." I started swinging the wrench wildly, like a man possessed, hitting everything within reach. The children, too, but I didn't hit them. The heavy metal tool passed straight through their bodies, blurring their shapes as if they were mirages. The lights began to flicker. Light, darkness, light, darkness. I kept thrashing with the wrench, striking at everything. A soft female voice pled. The lights stopped flickering. The place shifted into a small, gray store filled with strange, unfamiliar products. "Leave me alone," I shouted. "Artem, why?" the woman sobbed, and then I saw her. The blonde beauty lay before me. She tried to shield her face with her hands. Tears streamed down her cheeks. A dark purple bruise disfigured her pale skin. Blood trickled from her nose. She looked up at me, pleading. I was gasping from my exhausted frenzy when I realized my arm was raised. The heavy wrench hung in the air, aimed at the woman on the floor. 1 second, and I would bring it down. "You're not real," I screamed and swung. The wrench passed through her body, dissolving her like a fragile porcelain veil, and then it slammed into the stone floor, cracking it open. There was something beneath the cold stone, something endless, something pulsing, something calling to me. I struck the floor again and again. The stone split further until a large section broke loose. I knelt, slid my hand underneath, and lifted the slab. Beneath it, there was nothing but endless darkness. The abyss was beneath me. At the opening in the cold gray stone floor, a hole filled with complete emptiness, yet it didn't feel empty at all. I picked up a chunk of broken stone and tossed it in. I didn't hear it hit the bottom. If anything, it was as if it simply dissolved into the void. I just stared out into the darkness. Was this my way out, or was I about to sink even deeper into whatever this was? Slowly, I extended my index finger and reached into the dark. Something grabbed me. Maybe a hand, maybe something else, I couldn't tell. All I felt was a violent pull. There was nothing to hold on to. It happened in a fraction of a second, and the darkness swallowed me. Do you know what it feels like to float on water? Eyes closed, head tilted back, staring at the sky, feeling almost weightless as the waves carry you. That was the darkness. It was as if I were floating between waves in a pitch-black ocean where nothing else existed. For a while, I could still see the glowing opening above me, the hole I had smashed through the floor, but the dark waves slowly closed over it, hiding the light. The suffocating black pressed in around me. I thrashed and kicked at nothing, trying to swim in a pool that didn't exist, until suddenly, with a heavy thud, I hit the ground. It didn't hurt. I didn't injure anything. It was as if something had simply set me down. I couldn't see a thing. I didn't even know where I was. I lay there in the dark on a cold, smooth surface. When I felt around, my fingers traced straight, polished lines like marble tiles. I stood up. At least it felt like I did. With my hand stretched out in front of me, I searched for something, anything to grab onto. But there was nothing, just empty space. "Hello?" I called into the darkness. Only my echo answered me. It felt like I was trapped inside an empty room. I started shuffling forward, at least I think it was forward. I didn't dare lift my feet. I didn't even know which direction I was moving. I shuffled for what felt like forever. After a while, I dared to take small steps, careful ones. I walked somewhere, maybe in circles, maybe in a straight line, I have no idea. As I moved carefully ahead, my soft, dragging footsteps echoing around me, I heard something else. A woman's voice. It was distorted, as if she were speaking from far away, or from the other side of a wall. Finally, I had something to follow. A voice. I tried to move toward it, and it seemed to grow louder, clearer. Sweetheart, I told you no, not that either. Please listen to what I'm saying. Hello? I called out again. Is someone there? As I stepped forward, I bumped into something solid. It rattled metallically, as if it had shifted slightly. Shit, I hissed, rubbing my shoulder. I reached out with my hands to feel what it was. Cold, long surfaces. Shelves, at waist height. Things hanging from them. Plastic packaging? Food? Wait, sweetheart, the woman said, then paused. Excuse me, sir, are you okay? Her voice sounded so close now, as if she were standing right in front of me, as if she were speaking directly to me. Maybe it wasn't the place that was dark. Something touched me. Soft, slender fingers. I flinched and swatted at it instinctively. My nerves were shot from everything that had happened. Are you crazy? The woman snapped angrily. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you? I'm sorry, I said, not even sure which direction I was facing. Please, help me. 10:06 p.m., and I was standing in the parking lot. Blinking, my vision cleared. I was one step away from pushing the shopping cart through the store's automatic sliding doors. I'm outside? I drew in a deep breath, like I was on the verge of a panic attack. I wanted to scream like a terrified child. My mind felt like a deep-sea diver who had surfaced too fast. Surfaced? But from where? I reached into the cart, pulled out my bag, slung it over my shoulder, and started walking toward the row of cars. One word, one image, one single moment. Was this reality, or just another department in the store? Guys, psychological horror, I think it's the thing that freaks me out the most. Would you guys call this a backrooms type experience, or was it something completely different? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this story as much as I did. If you liked today's video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, as it does help me out greatly. And with that said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.